Hello. This is a global day of deception when the two World Trade Center have been hit by airplanes. On the occasion of September 11, let me express my Islamic point of view, since this is the occasion, the memorial of September 11. Now, everything had happened. It was so vague and mysterious, to the extent that until today, things were not clear. Even the Americans, they are until today skeptical about the quality of the planes. They were painted gray. They do not look like the normal, usual American airplanes, American Airline, United, etc. And among them are those who said that those planes were unmanned, just like the drone airplanes we can see today. So they were controlled. They were controlled from distance. Anyway, anything America does, it has to be justified. You do not need with them the pharaoh magicians, no, but you need a good magician media. Let me say this: the American people are easy to be programmed, fast to applaud, and proud of American strength. Look at the America's priests who steal billion from their people, attendants, and they are billionaires. And many of them, they were caught as thieves, stealing from the people, yet after the scandal, they return to their theft. Among them, Jimmy Swaggart, the millionaire Pat Robertson, the billionaire Kenneth Copeland, Benny Hinn, Joel Osteen, Billy Graham, Rick Warren, Joyce Meyer, Mike Murdoch, Robert Tilton, Cliffo Dollar, that's his family name, Dollar, T.D. Jake. And among them is Peter Popoff. You know who's Peter Popoff? Mm-hmm. Peter Popoff and the scandal of wireless communicating at that time in the 70s, in the 70s, when this wireless communication was so rare and unknown. And he was communicating with his wife, who was giving him the names and the CV of some of the attendants. So he was calling them by name to deceive people that he knows the unseen.
Popoff claimed God spoke directly to him, and he seemed to know everything about the people attending his crusades, including their health problems, and picked up radio transmissions. Turns out, the voice Popoff heard wasn't God's, but his wife's.
I'm talking to you. Can you hear me? If you can't, you're in trouble.
You see, Popoff's wife, Elizabeth, had previously gotten personal information from people in the audience and then fed it to her husband electronically through a tiny earpiece.
Jody Dean.
Jody Dean?
No, she should be right there on your right side. Okay, she lives at 4267 Masterson.
4267 Masterson. I can see the angels of God all around your house.
Now, all expertise concluded that the two towers fall and collapse because of controlled demolition. Now, who would among you believe that there was explosion at the bottom of the two towers that happened, that have been set without the knowledge, without the awareness, without the exploitation of this rightist capitalist beast? They're not so innocent. Look, I'm not going to detail all the conclusions about this event, but there are many non-Muslim, but experts at the same time. They're not Muslims, they're experts at the same time of explosion. Even the European Union had concluded that it is a self-controlled demolition. It had been set. It's a setup. And it was, they unlikely believed that 4 airplanes would be doing this event in 1 hour of the day. 4 airplanes have been hijacked, and they were ordered to hit the Pentagon and the World Trade Center in 1 day. Oof. I mean, the Russians couldn't do that. But one person whose name is Osama bin Laden can do it. The KGB could not do it, but Osama bin Laden can do it. And they strongly confirmed that the block number 7 had not been hit by any airplane. And it was distant from the World Trade Center, so it was not burning, nothing happened, but suddenly it collapsed in 40 seconds. Suddenly. With explosions that had been put at the bottom of the tower. In less than a minute, it collapsed. How can we know the whole truth when there are many papers that had been hidden deliberately by the government? And they said, for some security reasons, those pages have been hid. Well, all of those papers, there will be no need for them at the divine court when those who were behind the controlled demolition will be exposed. It's a day. All those betrayers, all those assassins, all of those conspirators will be exposed in that day. Because these courts nowadays can hide the reasons due to certain circumstances or pressures imposed on them. Now, all of those justifications about the war that should be waged in Afghanistan, in Iraq, all of those justifications are very similar to the justifications and the slogans of the Nazists. The same thing. Now, what is the difference between the German Nazists and the American Nazists, who said, just like what Bush said at the day when he started to occupy Afghanistan, he said, it's been said that if you want to make peace, you have to make war. If you want to make peace, you have to make war. We do not deny that there are 15 foolish Muslims who did not understand Islam. They were involved in this. But they're foolish. They're not so smart. They fell in the decoy of the politicians. And we know that the stupid people are always the fishing and the decoy of the politicians. And they are their justification to wage war, especially against Islam. 15 criminals did not put in their account the existing of women, children, innocent men, old men in these airplanes. And Islam does not legislate this. It does not allow it. It does not allow killing them in any case, while they are in a civilian airplane, not militant airplane. What leads us to be doubtful about all what happened is this question: where are the black boxes of the airplane? Where are they? What happened to them? Also, they were melted. And until now, there's disagreements about what really hit the Pentagon, an airplane or a big rocket. Things are not clear until now. What makes us doubtful about the whole case is the knowledge of the government, a previous knowledge of the government, that there are people who are conspiring, preparing themselves to kidnap those airplanes. They know it, but they let it go. See, America is not correcting mistakes, no, but it invests mistakes. It is sufficient filth that block number 7 falls while it is distant from the World Trade Center. It had not been hit by airplane, as I mentioned before. And because of the collapsing of block number 7, Silverstein ordered the Japanese insurance company to pay him $7 billion for the collapsing of block number 7. So it's a game, it's an insurance game that they can achieve many targets thereby. By this, you can figure out how capitalism, right wing, are very filthy, dirty, criminal. Let the American people know that those who had been burned inside the World Trade Center, or those who fell down from the World Trade Center, they could not bear seeing the smoke and the fire, so they threw themselves from the windows. Those are victims of the ambitious criminal politicians who knew about the intentions and the preparation to kidnap and hijack these airplanes. Then they facilitated it to them, to the criminals. Or they say, or they're Muslims. They say, La ilaha illallah, there's no God but Allah, even though they are criminals. Islam cannot win this kind of filthy war. No, it doesn't allow it. This is Afghanistan, which you've been shelling, striking for almost 20 years. Now they declared an Islamic state. And guess, among the ministers of this new government are 4 who used to be jailed in Guantanamo. It is not in the account and in the mind of the strong countries that there is a God that did not only create them, but he follows them up. And he let what he will goes, and he stops what he wills to stop. So those foolish, materialistic people among them, they'll say, where's God to stop us? Where's God to stop us? If there's a God, he would have stopped us. But he did not stop us, so there's no God. There's no God to create. This is very strange. Listen to those verses. وَمَكَرُوا مَكْرًا وَمَكَرْنَا مَكْرًا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And they planned a plan, but we also planned a plan while they perceive it not. فانظر كيف كان عاقبة مكرهم أنا دمرناهم وقومهم أجمعين. Then look how was the outcome of their plan, that we destroyed them and their people all. فتلك بيوتهم خاوية بما ظلموا إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يعلمون. So those are their houses. Look at their houses. Desolate because of the wrong they had done. Indeed, in that there is a sign for people who know. وَأَنْجَيْنَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. And we saved those who believed and used to fear Allah. Therefore, I would like to say this. America fights terrorism, but it benefits from terrorism. It even creates terrorism, as it was accused intellectually by those people of understanding, those wise people in America. And among them is Chomsky, in his book about September 11, titled as America, the terrorist country number 1 in the world. This man was so fair and just, and was so brave in hitting people by his words of truth. And really they had a hard time with this man. So I want you to read this book. And he was concluding that this was an inside job. It was a self-controlled demolition for many, many, many reasons. But now they failed. And what they said yesterday, that yes, it is true that we left Afghanistan. We failed, but we're going to come back to Afghanistan. Because the Afghani people, Taliban, won't be able to govern Afghanistan successfully. So we have to come back to them. They are regretful. They confessed their failure. Yet they are the strongest country in the world. Yes. But Allah always is the stronger. They plot, and Allah too plots. And the best among those who plot is Allah. Wait for the divine court at the day of judgment, when George Bush won't be having any bodyguard to support him. He'll be holding his deeds. And he and the similar tyrants of his type will be given the figure of an ant, the smallest kind of an ant, and people will be stepping upon them at the day of judgment for what they did. They caused the death of millions of people. They're criminal. Likewise are those who conspired to hijack the airplanes. They're Muslims. They say La ilaha illallah, but they're also criminals. Both are criminals. Killing innocent people, targeting civilian airplanes is not an Islamic principle. Islam is against that. If there's a war between Muslims and non-Muslims, and a Muslim killed a non-Muslim by mistake, he has to pay his blood money. And there's a punishment for that. How much more? If those people, when we see these people deliberately setting up civilian people to kill innocent people, among them children, civilian men, old men, women, you tell me this is Islam. It is not Islam. You helped, in a matter of fact, to disguise Islam to the people. And guess what? America and the West, they love these kinds of mistakes. But they don't like people like me who invite for Islam, rationally, intellectually. They don't like that. They don't like our type. But they like the type of those extremists because they are very fruitful to them. They can recruit them. They can invest them to hit Islam by them and by Allah. The hitting of Islam by the hijacking of those people is worse than the hit of people, because those guys are hitting Islam, thinking that they've done it well. And also it's because of the notion in the back of their mind that in any case, those disbelievers' blood is vain, has no value, so we can kill anyone among them at any time. That's not Islam. Wallahi, we disagree with those disbelievers. And I always criticize them. And I always condemn them. And I always tell them that we disagree. Our way of life, our culture disagree with the Western way of life, which gives liberty, freedom, a greater value than the truth. So they can dismiss the truth by the slogan of freedom. That's why they endorse the marriage of, same-sex marriage. Not only this, they approve the marriage of a man to a cow. Cow wedding with a man. I swear by Allah. Look, you just type bizarre marriages, bizarre weddings, and you'll find that. A man marrying a cow or marrying a dog. A woman marry a cat. A woman marries a dolphin. A man marries a TV. A man marries his PC computer. A woman married Eiffel Tower. A Korean man married a pillow. We disagree with this way of life. Can't we see that in this life there is a struggle, a war, a continuous, ongoing, non-stop war between the truth and the falsehood? So we should maintain this and put it our consideration, not to consider this wide conception of freedom, which can be including nudity on the beaches, nudity of clubs, devil worship. All of those are okay, but Islam's still not okay. What's the matter? Why you're afraid? Look, you have, for example, Christian wings in the Christian countries. In Europe, there is a Christian party, and it's involved in politics. Now, why Islam is targeted, and you have a great concerns that the political Islam should not be allowed to govern, to lead, to control. Why? Why only political Christianity, but not political Islam? Where's democracy? Oh, there's no democracy. When there are 5 God, small g, gods, when there are 5 small g gods control the world, and they defend criminal countries such as Israel, to occupy new lands, new houses, to oust Palestinians from their houses, when they are condemned in the Security Council, the Americans raise the veto. That means cancel the case. No one can speak out. Is this a democracy you're talking about? So the whole world is based on dictatorship. You have to upgrade this democracy. You have to upgrade it because it was. How do you upgrade it when from the beginning it was established on this, that the 5 countries, they have the full control of the world. No one can ask. They can ask, but their questions and requirements and condemnations will be cancelled by a raising of the veto hand. This is the law of the jungle. This is not a law that makes people happy. We're not going to forget the crimes of the United States. We're not going to forget the crime of Abu Ghraib prison. We're not going to forget what happened in Vietnam when they destroyed the whole country, dividing it in North and South Vietnam, killing millions of people there, destroying the infrastructure of the whole country, killing millions of Red Indians, the real owners of the United States, killing millions of Indonesian people by cooperation with Britain. Supporting, while claiming democracy, supporting dictators like LCC, like Suharto, like Gaddafi, like all dictators, Mubarak. See? So they defend democracy in their media, but they suppress and kill democracy in all the world. We will not be forgetting the crime of killing Layla Attar, the painter. The painter. She is a painter, and she drew on the entrance of Al Rashid Hotel in Baghdad at the time of Saddam Hussein. She drew George Bush at the entrance, so people will be stepping on his picture. What did they do to her? They struck her house by what? By F-16 or Apache with missiles. She and her family got killed by missiles. In America, they keep pursuing, chasing, those drivers. So they are so careful, conservative, that no blood will be shed by the innocents on the street. Yet, for a case like Layla Attar or the 2 sons of Saddam Hussein, when they were hiding in a house, when the Americans knew that they are hiding in the house, they were shelling them with missiles. With missiles. So we will not be forgetting the case of Layla Attar, who was shelled by missiles by the Americans, simply because she drew the picture of George Bush. We will not forget the American soldiers who were urinating over the dead bodies of the Afghanis in Afghanistan. We will not forget raping 14 years old child, a girl, in front of her family, then mutilating her, killing her, mutilating her family, then burning the house while they are in it. So no one will be knowing what happened. But it was known. This is the guy who did it. Then, after he got caught, he committed suicide. Why do I say that? Maybe they killed him. It was very critical against the American policy. Just like the case of Jeffrey Epstein, who had a whole island dedicated to have sex with minors that he attract and bring. And then a lot of politicians, just like British Duke Andrew, who was exposed with the case. So something had to be done to Jeffrey Epstein to get rid of him and say he committed suicide, okay? That should not keep us distant from the greatest shameful disgrace of the prison of Abu Ghraib in Iraq. We'll not forget this video where it shows Americans throwing the body of Osama bin Laden in the sea, while people shouting and yelling arrogantly, USA, USA, against who? Against a civilian person. You have a problem with him? Fine. Is he a terrorist? You consider him to be a terrorist? Fine. We're not going to talk about that. I myself disagree with many things with bin Laden. But why throwing him in the sea? Knowing at the same time that Islamically the dead body should be honored. Isn't this what we call in Arabic ghatrasa? Arrogance? And what is worst is that people are so happy, shouting cheerfully, USA, USA. Sorry to say that. This is not democracy. It's democracy. Democracy. As a result, look what's happening in the world. I like this verse in the Quran, which I like to end with it. It's very amazing. Where God the Almighty says, corruption had appeared throughout the land and sea. Corruption had appeared throughout the land and the sea by reason of what the hands of people had earned. So Allah may let them taste part of the consequence of what they have done, that perhaps will they return. So beautiful. There had emerged corruption in the land and the sea because of what people's hand had earned. So Allah will let them taste some of what they did, that they may return. This verse is very strong. It can't be a suggestion of a man who was riding a camel. It's a word from God Almighty. And look what's happening nowadays. Corona. Some were tampering with this because there's a biological war. They were tampering with those viruses and something went out of their control. So, at last, we conclude that this 9/11 was a controlled demolition. I don't deny that some Muslims were involved in it, but with the cooperation and the setup of those mean, dirty, filthy people who let it go deliberately. And they caused the killing of thousands of people because of their ambitions to expand their territories, the oil of Iraq, and the natural resources in Afghanistan. That is the case. Well, no court dared to speak out the whole truth. Even the papers of the report, there are 21 papers that no one is allowed to know what they consisted. Why? Security reasons. Security reasons. At the day of judgment, at the divine court, everything will be exposed. Everything will be scandaled. And the reality will be known. And those criminals who killed millions, they can't say, oh God, Jesus, your son died for us. Well, that's a worse crime than the other crime. To believe that God sent his son while he is one, and that son is innocent, and he had to bear the sins of the people. You did not know the truth. That's why Allah said in another verse, which is so beautiful, بل أكثرهم لا يعلمون الحق فهم معرضون. But most of them do not know the truth, and that's why they are turning away. Please try to know where's the truth. Americans are the creator of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Have you seen the picture of al-Baghdadi with John McCain? What was he doing with him? He was setting him up to become the caliph of the Muslims, and then to kill all of those new Muslims, young people who believed him, and they had hope that the Islamic Caliphate will be re-established by him, yet he was a decoy of the Americans. 9/11 is a conspiracy, is a self-controlled demolition. And many Americans, they knew it. Many Americans, they were assassinated. A lot of Americans nowadays, they believe that there is a conspiracy. They saw the explosions before the collapse of the World Trade Center. They saw them. It was so obvious. Especially the concrete evidence is block number 7, which collapsed by itself. And people were seeing the explosions on beneath of the building before it fell down. In 40 seconds, a whole tower collapses and falls down. I don't blame Chomsky to write this book. America is the greatest #1 terrorist in the world. Look what the Americans and the Canadians and Australians did to those Aborigines. How do they conspire against him? How do they facilitate drugs and alcohol to them to let them be mindless? To let them be existed, but there's no value for their existence. If they remain awake, then they will be demanding the countries like Australia and Canada that they are the original habitats of these countries. So they want to keep shutting their mouth always by this. Where's the democracy? If democracy guarantees happiness, people are not happy. In the most democratic countries, people are committing suicide. In Sweden, there are 60,000 Swedish people every year. They leave Sweden and they don't want it. They're not happy. In the most luxurious country in Europe, but even in the whole world, people are not happy. Look at those who convert to Islam after declaring the Shahada, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Look at them. They're crying. The moment they utter the word, they cry. And these tears are expression of their happiness, which they were looking for, but they did not find except in Islam. Do you want to stop Islam? Look. I admit, America, Russia, Britain, France, China are the greatest countries. And those greatest countries kept trying to stop Islam and shackle it from taking its marshal and cruising into the European and American country. But they could not stop it. They can see the number of Muslims is growing, as they admitted in many American channels, that there's an average of 20,000 American converts to Islam every year. So if all what you've been doing is to stop Islam, you can't. Because Islam belongs to Allah. And you cannot stop the light of Allah. The light of Allah cannot be stopped. No matter what you try. No matter how you try. No matter what you try. No way. Allah, as we find it in Sahih Muslim, in the book of Hadith, that Umar, the second caliph, said, Allah is the protector of his religion. So even if we see weak people, weak Muslim countries, that weakness will not be affecting the movement of Islam. That will not be stopping Islam. You're complaining that Islam is growing rapidly in the European countries, in America, in Canada, in Australia. You conduct many conferences about how to stop the growing of Islam. You won't be able, no matter what you try. Many people tried. They died. But Islam did not die. Do whatever you want to do. You are attracted by oil. We know your justifications. You want to give people their freedom. Look, you are the supporters of dictators in our countries. Who was supporting Mubarak? Who was supporting Gaddafi? Who was supporting Suharto, who killed millions of people in his country? Who was supporting them? You. Who was setting up all those coups in Africa? Really, France is juicing Africa, causing Africa to be a very poor continent. Very poor. Despite they have all natural, amazing resources. Gold, uranium, everything. They have a lot of resources. Yet they are the poorest people now. And that reminds me about when the sixth caliph, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he sent the zakah, the charity, to the people of Africa, and they refused it. They said, we're okay. We are rich already. People now are very poor. I was watching a picture of the Amazon store in Mexico. It's a very big, but surrounded with thousands of very poor houses, very poor. And people were criticizing this capitalism, this imperialism, American capitalism, that caused people to be either so high or so low at the same time, on account of other people who become extremely very poor. You don't like the system of zakah, which was set by Allah, that can let the very poor people be in the middle range by the support of those rich people who keep looking for the poor people to give them their charity. Interest is prohibited, but charity is obligatory. This is Islam. You want solution for the crimes. People today, they have no ideology. Finish. No ideology. Why don't you facilitate the ideology of Islam? Why don't you think about Islam being the solution for your problems? Look at the theft and robbery in your countries and the killings. What can stop them? One news published in the media about a man was caught stealing and his hand was cut off. You know what's going to happen? From 100% robbery and burgling to become 5%. It will not be stopping at 100%, but it will be reducing it, and you have no other solution to this except that, or killing the killer. But you don't want this, because most of those politicians, we know that. You think we don't know about Bohemian Grove and the devil worship? And among them are very high, big positions politically. Among them presidents, kings, queens, and they are members in the devil worship party. So maybe that's one of the reasons. Anyway, this Nazist slogans, just like the one was given by George Bush, that if you want to make peace, you have to make war. And if you're not with us, you're against us. This is a Nazist kind of slogan, similar to the German Nazist slogan. They're doing the same thing nowadays. What was the outcome? Nothing. Afghanistan returned to be more Islamic than it used to be before. And now you are giving good news to the people that, yeah, we failed in Afghanistan, but we're returning to Afghanistan. Now, why did you leave it then? And you confessed that you failed. In 20 years, what did those people have? Did they have Apache? Did they have F-16? Did they have F-22? No. They had no more than Kalashnikov. But they have strong doctrine. And they have strong persistence. They are so determined to defend Islam that either I die or I support my religion. Those are the men. You're not men. Goodbye.